So you may not know this, but for 2 years when I was in college, I was a lifeguard. I guarded the beach on Lake Michigan, and it was at a resort area, so there's also a pool right on the beach. And we would take turns guarding the pool sometimes guarding the beach. Now, when you hear about someone who's a lifeguard, you probably get this glamorous picture in your mind, right? Like David Hasselhoff in Baywatch, guy's all muscly, all oiled up, has this really bronze suntan, runs in slow motion up and down the beach, rescuing people and helping people. That's not how it is. I want to tell you that of all the jobs I have ever had, and I worked a good spell of time at Burger King. Of all the jobs I've ever had, lifeguarding was the worst job I've ever had. And the reason was it was incredibly boring. In 2 years as a lifeguard, I never rescued anyone. Now, that doesn't mean I was letting them drown, okay? I never had the opportunity. There were rescues that happened, but it was like I'd be on the beach and someone in the pool would get rescued. Or I'd be working at the pool and someone on the beach would get rescued. Or there'd be a big rescue and it just happened to be my day off. So I never had any rescue. Well, I had one rescue, and it happened on a day when a little kid's swim diaper malfunctioned. So we had to close the pool down, and the offending object slid down into the deep end, and we didn't have a long enough pole with a net to scoop it, and so we drew straws, and I drew the short straw, so I had to go and dive in and rescue the object. And it was not, it wasn't like on Caddyshack, okay? Rescues are fun and exciting. And if you're a lifeguard and you never get to make a rescue, it's really boring. And we love good rescues, right? Saving Private Ryan. It's a great story about a search and rescue mission. There's a series of movies from Liam Neeson called Taken, where he goes out and he searches and rescues his family. We love a good search and rescue story. But you know, that idea of search and rescue, that comes right from God. God was the very first being to ever go on a search and rescue mission. In fact, the very first search and rescue mission happens in Genesis 3. Adam and Eve are in the garden and they sin. They eat the forbidden fruit, and all of a sudden they realize that they're wrong, and they're embarrassed and they're ashamed and they feel guilty, and so they go and they hide. And God comes to the garden, and you remember what the first thing he says is? Adam, where are you? He's looking for them. And the reason is because he's come to rescue them. He sits down with Adam and Eve and he explains, you've brought evil into the world, and that's going to have some bad consequences, but I want you to know I'm going to rescue you. And he makes a promise to them. He says the seed of the woman is going to crush the head of the serpent. He was prophesying the coming of Jesus in the distant future when Jesus would come to rescue. You see, God is a God who loves to search and rescue. Think of some of the great search and rescue stories in the Bible. Noah. God went and he found Noah so that he could rescue Noah and his family. We've been talking about David. We just finished up our series last week on David. David was just a shepherd boy, the youngest, the neglected son, and God rescued him from the boredom of the pasture and raised him up to be the king sitting on the throne. Remember the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego who refused to bow to the false idol, so they got thrown into the fiery furnace, and God came and he was with them in the furnace, and he rescued them from being burned there. And the coming of Jesus to earth is the ultimate search and rescue story. God sent his very own son to earth to find those who were lost and to rescue them. In fact, Jesus said that about himself. He told people, hey, I am here for one reason, and it is to seek and to save. That's the same as saying to search and to rescue. We're going to look at the story that led up to Jesus saying, I'm here to seek and save today. It's in Luke 19. So if you have your Bible, you can open it up to Luke chapter 19. This is a really familiar story. Most of you have probably already heard this story. You know this story. It's the story of a man named Zacchaeus. Now, if you know anything about Zacchaeus, you know I'm the right guy to talk about Zacchaeus, right? Because what we know about Zacchaeus is that he was a wee little, see, you guys are right with me, he was a wee little man. So you're showing that you grew up in Sunday school if you know that song, and I'm not going to sing it to you today because you'd all run for the exits. So let's talk about Zacchaeus, all right? We're going to look at this story. We're going to bounce around a little bit from verse to verse, but you'll get the general idea, and we'll talk about Jesus' mission to seek and to save. Let's start Luke 19, verse 1. It says, he entered Jericho. He is Jesus. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through, and behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was rich. So what I want you to notice here is that Zacchaeus has what everybody wants. He's rich. He's wealthy. He can buy anything. He's one of the wealthiest men in Jericho, but not only is he wealthy, he's powerful. It says that he's a chief tax collector. The tax collectors worked with the Roman Empire. So already they had power, but he was one of the chiefs. He was one of the top guys. He had worked his way up through the system, and now he has power, he has authority, he has influence, he's important, and he's rich. And we look at a guy like Zacchaeus and say, that's a guy that's got everything. He's got what I want. He's got power, he's got authority, he's got wealth. But even though Zacchaeus had what everybody wanted, Zacchaeus knew it wasn't enough. He knew there was something else out there. Look at the next verse. Verse 3, it says, and he was seeking. So even though Zacchaeus seemingly had everything, he was still looking for something. He was seeking to see who Jesus was. He had heard about this guy, Jesus, who's walking around healing people, who's got these strange teachings about God, and how the crowds are following him and listening to him. And Zacchaeus wants to know more. But on account of the crowd, he couldn't see him, because he was small in stature. I totally get this. Okay, there have been many times in my life when I've been in a crowd and I can't see what's going on. Just this morning, we dropped Liam off at the airport so he could fly back to Portland. And you know what parents do when their kids leave is you kind of stand and watch them go through the security line, right? You want to see him as long as you can before he disappears. And for a short guy like me, that's not very long. He gets around one loop in the security line, and that's it. He's gone. And I'm like, where is he? Where is he? You know, every so often you can catch a glimpse. But that's what Zacchaeus is doing. He can't see Jesus because of his stature. And so he climbs a tree. He climbed up in a sycamore tree to see him, for he was about to pass that way. You see, Zacchaeus had what everybody wanted. But Zacchaeus was still looking for Jesus. And Zacchaeus' height was an obstacle that kept him from seeing what he needed. Now, Zacchaeus is not the first person in the history of the world who's had an obstacle that keeps him from seeing Jesus. In fact, most people at some point in their life have an obstacle that keeps them from seeing Jesus. Sometimes we put these obstacles in our own way. Something like our own pride. You know, we look at ourselves and we say, hey, I'm doing pretty well here. I've got it together. I don't really need anybody's help. I can manage this my own. And because we think we're doing so well and we think we have it all together, we don't see our need for God. We don't see our need for Jesus. And our pride, our self-confidence becomes an obstacle that keeps us from seeing what we need. Sometimes it may not be pride, it might be our plans. We have these ideas about the future. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm going to do. I've got everything mapped out, and it's going to go exactly like this. And as I look at my plans that I've made, I realize there's not really room for God in these plans. They don't include him, so I don't really need him. And my own plans for the future can become an obstacle that keep me from seeing what I need. Sometimes we don't put those obstacles in our own way. Sometimes those obstacles come from elsewhere. Sometimes those obstacles might be pain. Something's happened to me, and it hurts, and it keeps me from looking outside of myself. And all I can do is focus on how much I hurt and how much I'm in pain, and I can't see beyond that to see what I really need. Sometimes the obstacles are past. Sometimes our obstacles are other people. They've done something to us. They've hurt us. They've said something. They haven't been there when I needed to be there. And we get so obsessed and focused on our past and our pain and other people that we can't see what we really need. Sometimes we're just like Zacchaeus. Our obstacle is our success. We've got everything that anybody could want, but we don't have the one thing that we really need. Sometimes, and this is the saddest one of all, sometimes the obstacle that keeps people from seeing Jesus is Jesus' own people, the church. Sometimes because the church can be seen as being divisive or judgmental or too exclusive. People can't see past that to see who Jesus really is. In fact, in this story, in Luke 19, we see a little hint of that. If we skip ahead to verse 7, Jesus has already met Zacchaeus now, and he's invited Zacchaeus to say, I want to go to your house, but listen to what happens. Verse 7, and when they saw it, the crowd, the people around, they all grumbled. He has gone in to be the guest of a man who is a sinner. The people all around look at Zacchaeus and say, I can't believe Jesus is talking to that guy. He's the worst. He's a sinner. He's a tax collector. He works with the Romans. I can't believe Jesus is talking to him. But who were these people? Who was in the crowd? These were God's chosen people. The Israelites, the ones he rescued from Egypt. These are the ones who kept God's law religiously. They followed the Ten Commandments. They followed the law of Moses. These were the religious people. These were the people who went to synagogue every Sabbath. That was their version of church. So these were the church people, the holy people, the righteous people, the spiritual people, and they're grumbling. And that's not uncommon. Remember, after God rescued his people from Egypt, you read the book of Exodus, and what you see is over and over again, God's people grumble. Moses, why'd you bring us here? Moses, we want better food. Moses, where's the water? Moses, we want to have our own home. Yada, 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 yada. Grumble, grumble, grumble. And sadly, that continues today, doesn't it? You can go to some churches. Now, it doesn't happen here, and I'm really glad about that. It doesn't happen here, but you go to some churches, and you're going to hear a lot of grumbling. We're going to grumble about the colors of the wall. We're going to grumble about the style of the carpet. We're going to grumble about the flavor of the coffee. We're going to grumble about the music. It's too loud, it's too soft, it's too fast, it's too slow. We're going to grumble about the preacher. He's too loud, he's too soft. He preaches too long, he preaches too short, right? Grumble, grumble, grumble. For whatever reason, God's people love to grumble. Why is that? I think it's because we like to see what's wrong with everything and everyone around us. And when we can take our time pointing out everything that's wrong, that makes us feel like we're right. And it makes us feel a lot better about ourselves. And so we find all of these things to grumble about because that makes us feel good. But when we are grumbling all the time, what we don't realize is we have become the obstacle that keeps people from seeing Jesus. And in this story, the crowd has become an obstacle that's in the way. But fortunately, Jesus didn't let the crowd deter him. Look at Jesus' interaction with Nicodemus. This is verse 5. When Jesus came to the place where Nicodemus was, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today. This is really cool. So Zacchaeus is looking for Jesus, but he can't see him because there's an obstacle in the way. But since Zacchaeus can't find Jesus, Jesus finds Zacchaeus. That's what Jesus does. Jesus finds those who are lost. Jesus finds those who are looking. At the end of the story, Jesus goes to Zacchaeus' house, and they have this conversation, and Zacchaeus realizes, hey, the way I've been living doesn't work. And he gives his life to Jesus. He says, from now on, I'm going to follow you, and I'm going to make right what I've done wrong. And Jesus says, this is why I'm here. Verse 10, he says, this is why I've come, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. That is why Jesus came. You see, all of us at some point in our life have been Zacchaeus. Maybe like Zacchaeus, you've had everything. You've had everything anybody could possibly want, and yet there's still this emptiness, this gnawing that this isn't it. There's still something else out there. I'm still missing something. Or maybe you're not like Zacchaeus at all, And you feel lost because you're lost in loneliness or depression or addiction or anxiety or whatever else it may be that you're like, I know there's something better out there, but I can't find it. When we are lost, we are in the perfect place to be found by Jesus. You see, the reason we have that emptiness, the reason we have that gnawing that this isn't it, there's something more, is because we are missing the one connection we most need. When Adam and Eve disobeyed God, they made a decision. They made a decision that they were going to live their way instead of his way. And when they cut him out of the picture, they lost the connection they needed. Because we were created to be in relationship with our Creator. And we're just like Adam and Eve. Every single one of us has at some point in our life said, I'm going to do this my way. I'm going to cut God out. I'm not going to do things his way. I'm going to live life my way. And when we decide to live life our way, we cut him out of the picture and we are broken away from the relationship we most need. That's why Jesus came. God sent his Son to reconnect us to him. So Jesus came and he lived for 33 years. And he always did things God's way. He never did things his way. He never sinned. He never did anything wrong. So at the end of his life, Jesus could say, hey, I'm the only person who has ever lived who has not broken that connection with God, who has not been separated from God. And Jesus went to the cross. And as he hung on that cross, he allowed himself to be separated from God to take our place. That's why when he was on the cross, Jesus said, Father, why have you forsaken me? Because God turned his back on Jesus. And in that moment, Jesus experienced the separation that we deserve and that we've brought onto ourselves. And he did that to reunite us with God. When Jesus was on the cross, he said, it is finished. And in that moment, there was this curtain in the temple. And this curtain hung between the holy place and the rest of the temple, and it was there as a reminder to people that you cannot be in the presence of God. Your sin has separated from you. He is too holy. You are separate. But when Jesus died, in the moment when he said, it is finished, that curtain was ripped in two. And it's this beautiful picture that no longer is there a barrier between us and God. We can now be in relationship with our Creator. The one thing we are missing in life, it is there for us if, like Zacchaeus, we will say, Jesus, I'm giving my life to you. And maybe this is you this morning. Maybe you came this morning and you're saying, this is me. I've got that emptiness. I've got that longing. I'm missing something. I've been looking everywhere. I've been searching, but I'm lost. That's me. You don't have to leave this morning without making that right. Right where you are, right now, just talk to God. You don't have to even say words out loud. Just in your mind say, God, I've been looking and not finding, and today I'm giving my life to you. I'm sorry for all that I've done wrong. I'm sorry for separating myself from you. Thank you for Jesus. I accept his gift. You give your life to him and find that relationship for which you've been longing. Now, some of us have done that a long time ago. Some of us have experienced what it means to be rescued by God. And I want you to hear this. This is important. God did not rescue you. God did not pour his grace on you so that you could grumble. Grumbling is not what God's people do. God rescued you. God saved you so you could save people. Because rescued people rescue people. And one of the greatest rescues in the history of the world happened in 1940. Between the end of May and the beginning of June, there was this incredible event. We call it the rescue or the miracle at Dunkirk. And maybe you've seen the movie that came out a little while ago about this incredible event in history. Maybe you've seen the movie that's out right now about Winston Churchill called The Darkest Hour. This is an unbelievable story. Maybe you don't know this story at all. Back in the early days of World War II, before the United States had even gotten into the war, England sent all of their fighting troops over to France to try to keep Germany from invading France. The idea was if we stop them before they invade, then we can avoid this massive war. And so the entire fighting force of England went to France to stop the Germans. Unfortunately, the French and the British vastly underestimated the power and the speed and the ability of the Germans. And in just a matter of days, the Germans had overrun the British and the French. They had taken over Belgium, Holland had fallen, and now all of the English troops are in a massive retreat back towards the English Channel. But when they get there, there's no way to get back to England. And now 300,000 English troops are on the beaches in Dunkirk with the Germans closing in, no way to get home. And then the miracle happened. 850 non-military vessels from England sailed out across the English Channel. In over a period of a few days, they were able to evacuate over 300,000 men from France to England. These were not military boats. These were not rescue boats. These were fishing boats. They were pleasure yachts. They were ferry boats. They were every imaginable kind of boat they went across to rescue. And here's why they did it. Because crisis causes us to give up our comfort. Those people in England, they weren't military people. They were comfortable. They were happy. They were fine. Their boats were designed to give them comfort. Let's go fishing today. Let's go sailing today. But when the crisis came, they said, it's time to give up comfort. We've got to rescue our boys. Listen, our world is in crisis. All around you, everywhere you look, there are people who are lost in life. They might be lost like Zacchaeus, where they've got everything, but they know they need something else. Or they might be lost in depression or addiction or loneliness or loss or pain, trapped in their past. All around you, people are lost and need to be rescued. And if we are going to rescue them, that might mean we have to get a little uncomfortable. That might mean that we have to think less of ourselves and more of others. Because crisis causes us to give up our comfort. Are you ready to do that? If God has rescued you, rescue people, that might mean that God is calling on you to say, I need to get a little uncomfortable because I need to be part of this rescue operation. But not only does crisis cause us to give up comfort, I want you to also understand that urgency unites us around our mission. Urgency unites us around our mission. This summer, a hurricane hit Texas. Remember, Hurricane Harvey hit the Houston area. Absolutely devastating. But maybe you saw these pictures on the news. This is a group of people, they called themselves the Cajun Navy. Remember, people from all around the South just hitched their boats up to their trucks and they headed for Houston. Hundreds of them, thousands, all different kinds of boats, different kinds of people. These were people from all walks of life, all different parts of the country, all different ideas, all different kinds of boats, all different political thoughts. But in this moment, they realize there's a crisis and there's urgency. And whatever it is that separates us and divides us, we can put that aside and we can unify because these people in Houston don't have much time. There is an urgent need. You see, urgency drives us to unite with each other to rescue. We ought to feel urgency for Jesus' mission, because we don't know how much time the people around us have. Life very rarely does what we expect it to do. Have you ever had one of those days where nothing goes according to plan? This last week, we had to get my daughter Emma back to college so she could fly to the Czech Republic. She's there now on a missions trip. And her plane was flying out Wednesday morning, so she had to be back at Taylor, her college, Tuesday morning so that she could meet with her team one final time. So we had this great plan all put together. Monday night, we left and we drove over to Indiana so we could stay in a hotel, just the four of us, and have a good time together, drop Emma off in the morning. She would unload our truck, get everything back in her room, jump in her car, and drive to the leader's house where their team was meeting, and we would head back. So we were planning to be on the road by 10 o'clock in the morning. That was the plan. Our plans don't always follow through, though. I got up on Tuesday morning, and I don't know if you remember how cold it was on Tuesday. It was like negative 80 or something. It was really cold, and the plan was I was going to call an order for breakfast to Cracker Barrel, which was 100 yards from our hotel, and then go pick it up. So I got up, and I called the order in, and then I went outside and said, there's no way I'm walking 100 yards in this weather. So I actually drove across the parking lot to Cracker Barrel to get our food, got it all together, went back to the room. I'm unpacking the food, and I realized they got the order wrong. But it was mostly my order that they got wrong. I decided I was going to go healthy a little bit, so I ordered egg whites instead of regular eggs, and I ordered turkey sausage because that's better for you. You know, it was the second day of the new year. I want to be healthy. And so I started to go there, and they didn't give me egg whites. They gave me regular eggs. And there was no sausage, turkey or otherwise, to be found anywhere in the order. So I got on the phone, and I called them. I said, hey, look, you got this order wrong, and here's what I ordered, and here's what I got. And I said, it's not really that big a deal. I don't have time to come over and get it changed, but I'm just wondering if later today I can swing by Cracker Barrel, and you can just credit this part of the meal back to my credit card. And they agreed that that would be okay. I said, all right, so on our way out of town, after we drop Emma off, we're going to zip by Cracker Barrel. I'll run in, get this taken care of. So we got on the road. We were all set, out of the hotel in time, got over to the college, and it's about 9:45, so we're doing really well. And we pull into the parking lot where Emma's car is, and it's sitting under about 6 inches of what used to be snow and now is ice. Because it had been sitting there for 2.5 weeks while she was home for Christmas. So I said, Liam, you start, getting that ice off there, and I'll get it started up. And I got in there, and I turned the key, and you know what happened, right? Like, all right. I said, Emma, don't worry. It's really cold, so don't worry about it right now. What we'll do is we'll just unpack your stuff into the car, and then we'll drive you to your leader's house where your meeting is, and then Liam and I will just come back and get the car started, and we'll drive the car over to you when we're done. Seemed like a really good plan. I'm like, we're not going to get out of town by 10 now, but we should be on the road by 10:30 or so. So we took Emma to the leader's house, dropped her off there, went back, got the car. Took us a while to get it started, but we got it up and running. And I thought, it's my little girl. I don't want to leave her car here just without ready to go. So I'm going to go gas it up, and that way it'll run for a little bit longer, make sure it's ready to go for her. So we drove. But if you've never been to Taylor University, you hear people say it's in the middle of nowhere. You have to go past the middle of nowhere to get to Taylor University. So you have to drive about 10 minutes to get to a gas station. So we drive to the gas station, and I fill it up. And I thought, now's a good time to run over to Cracker Barrel because I'm right here. It's across the street. I'll go get my credit card taken care of. Then we'll take the car back to Emma. So I go to Cracker Barrel, take care of that, go back, take the car to where Emma is with her leaders. We say goodbye to her, get in the car, look at the back. And it's 11:30. We're planning to leave by 10. Well, let's just grab food on the way out. So we decided to stop at this place called Payne's. By the way, if you're ever in Gas City, Indiana, I don't know why you would be, but if you're ever in Gas City, Indiana, eat at Payne's. Great food, delicious. So we stop and we eat there, and it's fantastic. It's wonderful. I'm eating a barbecue sandwich because I decided that whole healthy eating thing wasn't a good idea anyways. So I'm eating my barbecue pork sandwich, and it's really tasty. It's really good, but about halfway through, I notice there's something in the meat, so I take the sandwich apart, and it's like a shard of plastic. It almost was like someone took a Tupperware bowl and threw it in a leaf chipper, and then took all the pieces and mixed it in with the pork. And so I called the waiter over, and I'm like, hey, this is really good, and I'm really enjoying it, but I found this in the pork. I said, I'm not upset, I'm not angry, but you may want to check through the rest of your barbecue meat, make sure there's not more in there. And, of course, he was mortified and very apologetic and took it back and came right back out and said, hey, I'm just so sorry. Can I get you anything? I'm like, no, I'm kind of full. I don't need anything else. I said, well, we're just going to comp the whole meal for you guys. Everything's free. Just have a wonderful day. We're like, sweet. That's great. So we're like, all right, well, we're going to head out. So we got up. It's really nice at the end of a meal at a restaurant to not have to do this, right, and reach for the old wallet. And I didn't have to reach for my wallet, and that was great. In retrospect, it would have been better if I had reached for my wallet. Because we got out into the car, and we were getting in the car, getting ready to leave, and headed over towards Starbucks to hit Starbucks on the way out, and I realized, I don't have my wallet. And I've been to a lot of places this morning. So I started thinking back, okay, when was the last time I had my wallet? It was at the gas station. I know I had it there because I paid for the gas. So, all right, so we went to Starbucks, we got our coffee, then we start to backtrack. And Mary Ann says, we should go check the car. Because if Emma's going to go somewhere, we want to check the car before she leaves. So let's get back to Taylor, check the car, make sure it didn't fall out in the car. I said, that's a great idea. So drive 10 minutes back into Taylor, get into the car, look all over, no wallet. All right, gas station is next. So we go back to the gas station, looking everywhere where I had been, don't see it. I go in, hey, did anybody turn in a wallet? No, of course not, like they would if they found it, because my wallet's so full of money. So then we went to Cracker Barrel, no wallet there, and well, there's only one place left to go, back to Payne's. So we go back to Payne's, and I walk in the door. I took one step in the door, and here comes the waiter. Here you go. This fell out of your pocket or something was in the seat. He just hands it to me. He's like, all right, great. I've got my wallet. We can get on the road. Remember what time we were planning to leave? 10. You know what time it is? 2. 4 hours later. We had great plans. We were sure we knew what was going to happen. But sometimes our best plans fall apart. None of us know what's going to happen next. And none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow. And please understand this. The people around you don't know if they have tomorrow. Every month, Dayton Daily News runs over 1,500 obituaries. And of those 1,500, some are expected and some are not. There are some people who had a lot of plans for the future but didn't have a tomorrow. And that is why our mission is urgent. You see, if just one of those 1,500 people died without knowing the love and the grace and the forgiveness of God, then how urgent must our mission be? And can we not give up a little comfort? And can we not set differences aside so that we can unite around Jesus' mission? You see, Jesus' mission calls for focused commitment and full participation. This is a me and us kind of thing. You see, as an individual, if I want to be part of Jesus' mission, I need to be focused and committed to searching and rescuing. That means I'm going through life looking for the people who are lost. They might be like Zacchaeus. They've got everything together on the outside, but on the inside, there's that gnawing that they're still missing something. Or they might be someone who's drowning in the seas of loneliness. Or they might be something who's trying to escape from their past or whatever else it might be. If I want to be part of Jesus' mission, I need to be focused on finding and reaching those who are lost. But it's not just a me thing, it's an us thing. See, Jesus' mission requires full participation. The gathering, this church, if we're a boat, we're not a cruise ship. We're not here to just have fun and be comfortable. This is a rescue boat, and it requires all of us to jump on board and saying, we're in this together because this mission is so urgent. So here's what I want to ask of you. For the next 5 weeks, we're going to be talking about what it looks like for the gathering to be part of Jesus' search and rescue mission. And I want to ask you to be here, if you possibly can, for every week of that. Because what we're going to be talking about is important, and it's critical, and it's urgent. If you right now will take out your connection card. I don't always ask you to do this during the sermon, but I want you to look on the back of your connection card where it says, my next step is. All right, one of the steps is memorize our verse, which is Jesus saying, I came to seek and save the lost. But I want you to look at the next couple next steps because I want you to think about doing this. The first one says, I am praying for. There's a blank there. And I'd love it if every single one of you would put a name on that blank of someone you know that is seeking. Someone you know that is looking for that thing in life that they're missing. And so that every time this week that God brings that person to your mind, you'll take a moment and you'll pray for them. You'll pray that they'll find what they're looking for. You'll pray that God will find them. That he will reach his arms around them and that they will experience and know his love and that they will accept his grace and his mercy and choose to follow him. The next one says, show up every week for search and rescue. I hope you'll do that. I hope if you're not in a life group, that you'll take some time to get into one because our life groups are going to be talking about this too. This is a great chance to jump in and become part of a life group. The last step, or the fourth step, is tell one person how God has changed me. Now, I know that might be a little uncomfortable because sometimes spiritual conversations are uncomfortable. Do you remember the story of the blind man that was healed by Jesus? Jesus healed him, and then some of the religious leaders came to him and said, hey, that guy that healed you, is he the Son of God? And the blind man said, To be honest, guys, I'm not a scholar. Don't have a lot of theological background. I really don't know a lot about that guy, but I know one thing. I know that a couple minutes ago, I was blind, and now I can see. That's all I need to know. You see, you don't have to be a biblical scholar. You don't have to understand all of the nuances of Scripture. You don't have to have a theological degree to be able to say to somebody, hey, this is what I know. I used to be like this, and now I'm like this. God is changing me. I know it can be uncomfortable to have a spiritual conversation with people. But remember, when the mission is critical, when you're in crisis, that is the time to give up your comfort. And I want to challenge you to think about this. Find one person you know this week, say to them, hey, listen, I'm not telling you this because I want anything from you. I just want you to know this is how God has changed me. This is how I used to be, and this is how I am. And then just step away and let God do the seeking and let God do the finding. We have a great and glorious mission that has been given to us by our Heavenly Father. And I hope that you're going to join me for the next couple weeks as we talk about this, because I'm excited about what can happen through us if we will commit ourselves to this mission of being part of Jesus' search and rescue team. Let's pray. Father, you've done so much for us. And Jesus is the amazing gift that allows us to be reunited with you. Thank you for that. Thank you for this church, for these people who love one another and who love you. And I pray that you would just work in us and work through us. Make us a community of believers who are drawing others to you. Help us to be willing to go out into your creation, into your world, and seek and save those who are lost. Thank you for seeking us out and for saving us. In your name, amen.